Hello, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Pigskin and Burnt Ends, the Texas-based college football program for you. We've got a lot to discuss today. It is episode 3 as we are new into the college football season, but not so new that we haven't had some tremendous games, some tremendous drama, and already quite a few upsets, even here in the Lone Star State with some of our teams. We're going to talk a little Houston Cougars. We've got Texas Longhorns. What is up with Arch? Did he fall off the top of the mountain again? Of course, the SMU Mustangs, Texas Tech Red Raiders are still rolling. Can anybody stop that offense? TCU, we're even going to talk a little North Texas Mean Green. And, of course, the Aggies' big win up in South Bend for you. All of that coming up here on the Pigskin and Burnt Ends podcast on FanStream Sports and the College Gridiron Coast to Coast Network. We need to remind everybody, however, that Pigskin and Burnt Ends is sponsored in part by Ticket Smarter. The 2025 college football season is here, and we know you're looking for the best seats at the most competitive prices. And we want to make sure you take advantage of Ticket Smarter and their mobile app. We know more than ever that buying college football tickets online requires trust, and Ticket Smarter is partnered with more than 100 universities and 24 conferences as their official ticket resale marketplace. They've also partnered with ESPN Events as an official ticket resale partner as well. Purchase your tickets quickly, securely, and at the best prices on the secondary market with the Ticket Smarter mobile app or at ticketsmarter.com. We have 2 great offers for our listeners. You can save $10 on your purchase of $100 or more on Ticket Smarter by using the code LWOS10. And if you spend more, you can save more. Because if you spend $300 or more and use the promo code LWOS20, you'll save $20 off your purchase. But wait, there's more. These codes are not just a one-time offer. Use our codes over and over again all season long to save for the best selection of seats to this year's biggest games. Don't wait. Get the best selection and pricing now with Ticket Smarter. And remember our codes LWOS10 and LWOS20. Think smarter. Ticket Smarter. Thank you, Ticket Smarter. So lots of action to get into this week, boys and girls. We are going to talk Aggies, as I mentioned, maybe the biggest story, not just for Texas-based college football programs, but maybe around the country as they head to Notre Dame to South Bend and walk out with a surprising W to some, maybe. Not so surprising to others, but we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. I wanted to start things off here, boys and girls, with our good friend Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, up there with those Colorado Buffaloes as the Houston Cougars defeat the Colorado Buffaloes and Coach Prime at home in Houston, 36-20. It was another coming out party for one Connor Weigman. The former Texas A&M Aggies, great. At least we thought he was going to be when he signed with the school. But now he's on to bigger and better things for him, probably a better fit. As I think I said it last week when we were talking about Connor Weigman and the Cougars, that was, I think, the version of Connor Weigman that the Aggies thought they were going to get, that Jimbo was trying to get up there at Texas A&M. It just never panned out due to injuries. But he is living his best life right now and playing his best football with the Cougars. He had 221 yards. He ran for another 83 yards and 2 touchdowns. Both of those career highs for him as he leads Houston over the Buffaloes. The Cougars were up by 5 late in the third quarter. Dean Connors ran 18 yards to get them to the 1-yard line. Weigman scored on the next play to make it 26-14. Blake Thompson intercepted Ryan Staub on the first play of the fourth quarter, but the Cougars could not cash in on that mistake after Ethan Sanchez missed a 50-yard field goal attempt. A lot of missed field goals again this week in college football, by the way. Houston forced Colorado to punt. Weigman made it 33-14 when he scored on a 7-yard run that was set up by a beautiful 54-yard pass to Steven Johnson to play later. It was Ryan Staub's first start of the season after he decided to remain with the Buffaloes program. Of course, he played behind Shedeur Sanders the past 2 seasons. I've heard he's had transfer offers. I heard he didn't have transfer offers. Whatever the situation was, he decided to stay there in Colorado, in Boulder, and play for Coach Prime. But he finally gets his chance to go under center. Things started out a little sketchy for him. I wasn't that impressed. I don't know that Dion was that impressed. He was even the third string to start the season, behind, of course, their five-star freshman, Julian Lewis. But he earned the start this week after coming into the game last week, throwing a couple of touchdown passes in the win over Delaware. He went 19 to 35, rather, for 204 yards and a touchdown, but he could not get the offense going in the second half as Colorado managed just 6 points after halftime, and he was intercepted twice. Dion went off after the game. If you saw this anywhere on social media or on any of the college football programs on the networks, they played this video a few times elsewhere, that he couldn't believe how bad his team played in that game after the way they prepared. The problem that I have with this is I didn't see Dion taking any credit or blame for the loss. All he seemed to focus on was how well he had them prepared and how miserably they performed. I don't like hearing that as a coach, and I said it going into the season for Coach Deion Sanders that this will be kind of a telling season for him, because this is finally his team now. This is his third year. It's his team, and it's his program. These are the players that he wanted. His kids are gone. He doesn't have Shadur under center anymore. So we will see what kind of coach Deion Sanders is without his kids. He's 1-2. He's 0-1 now in the conference in the Big 12. And again, I haven't watched every single game. I'm a Colorado fan. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, so I loved Deion when he was here. I just never thought that would translate to coaching, and we know what he did at Jackson State. Say what you want about that. I just don't like the look I'm getting from him as a head coach now in this football season. And we will see. We will see if he's able to turn things around. I didn't see anything promising from his football team at all, including the coaching and the play calling. He's got a lot of big names up there as far as ex-NFL players go, but I haven't seen anything to give Colorado Buffaloes fans hope that this thing's going to get better. We hope it does. We hope it does for Deion and for the kids and everybody involved with that program. Houston led 13-0 early on after scoring on its first three possessions. Colorado cut the lead to 13-7 when Simeon Price capped the 10-play, 93-yard drive with a 38-yard touchdown run with about 7.5 minutes left in the half. A field goal by the Cougars made it 16-7 with less than 2 minutes remaining in the first half. But the Buffaloes added a touchdown just before halftime to get the score to 16-14. Staub scrambled 19 yards but fumbled before he crossed the goal line. Before one of his players, I can't remember who it was that jumped on the ball. Maybe it was Atkins, I believe, to go ahead and score the touchdown. And you don't like the way Staub reacted to that. He was sure that he had crossed the line and just jumped up and started celebrating as the ball laid on the turf in the end zone right next to him. And thankfully, the other Colorado player jumped on it for the Buffs rather than a Cougars player. They ended up getting the score, but I didn't like that look either. I don't like the direction this Colorado Buffaloes team is heading, in case I haven't made that clear. But enough about the Buffs. Houston, man, again, played very, very well. Connor Weigman is playing elite football right now, and he should be. The Cougars have been playing well all season, 3-0 now. They're 1-0 in the conference. And look, after wins against Stephen F. Austin, 27-0, you win at Rice, right across town, 35-9. Now you've beaten Colorado 36-20 in what was a close game midway through the game. You now have Oregon State on their turf on the 26th after a week off. That'll be a late game, obviously, on the West Coast on ESPN, though. You do get national TV coverage because it's the late game. And then you've got number 17, Texas Tech, at home the week after that. So the schedule will toughen a little bit for the Cougars. as we get on into the schedule. But things certainly looking up for Connor Weigman and those Houston Cougars. Let's get into a little bit of Arch Manning talk, if we can, briefly, boys and girls, because there is still a lot of talk about Arch Manning, and maybe he doesn't have it after the opening day loss at Ohio State, 14-7. Manning struggled with the offense. He struggled, and look, we've been all up and down that performance. We don't need to rehash that. But I don't think that was a proper representation of Arch Manning's football, of his abilities. Certainly, we know he's better than that. That was just a really, really tough matchup for him and his team. Then you go San Jose State at home, 38-7. Man, you look great. This is the Arch Manning we thought we would see. And he still had people, why did they only win 38-7? They should have won by 60. Well, you know what? Football's hard. And it's not 11 Arch Mannings on offense and 11 Arch Mannings on defense. All right. It's a team sport. There were other parts of the program, other parts of the team that didn't play very well that day. You still win by 31. And if you're one of those Longhorns fans that think that wasn't good enough, then I don't know what to tell you. That's on you. And then you struggle a little bit again against UTEP at home. 27-10 your final. Arch Manning runs for 2 touchdowns, but he seems to once again struggle against and I don't want to say UTEP's not a good team, or they're not, obviously they're out there trying like everybody else. They're not one of the tougher programs you're going to play this year, though. And Arch Manning struggled with the passing game. He struggled to have command of the offense again. I've heard people saying that he looks like he's hurt. He's not hurt, guys, all right? If he was hurt, we'd know it. Coach Sark would not be playing him if he didn't think he was 100% and be able to perform like the Arch Manning we think is in there somewhere. He had 2 first-half touchdown runs in this game, again, as they struggle to a 17-point victory over UTEP. He ran 2 yards for an early touchdown. He had a 5-yard scoring run in the final seconds of the half for a 14-3 lead. You led UTEP 14-3 at the half. And, man, the Boo Birds were out often, and the Boo Birds were out early. There at DKR in Austin. And that's something I don't understand. How do you boo your own, unless you're a Cowboys fan, how do you boo your own team and boo Arch Manning in his home stadium? That is just beyond me, guys. I don't understand that. In the first half, he's getting booed by the home team. Manning admitted he didn't play well. He said he was frustrated. He knows he's better. He said he was going to lose sleep after Saturday's game. And you know what? He's 100% right on all of those, and you should lose some sleep, Arch Manning, because maybe you should be up studying the playbook a little bit more. I don't know what his study habits are, guys. Sometimes we hear when players, especially at the quarterback position, collegiately, hell, even in the pros, when guys have poor study habits, usually that leaks out somewhere. I've never heard any of that with Arch Manning. I don't believe that's the case. But he certainly has not lived up to his preseason hype as a Heisman favorite. He certainly has not lived up to the hype that he received in the recruiting process, as every single school in the world, maybe even in the galaxy, was vying for his services. Coach Sark said after the game that he thought Arch looked like he was maybe pressing some. He admitted he missed some throws and he didn't understand why. Sark said, quote, "I feel like we've done enough with him to have a pretty good understanding of who he is as a player and what he's capable of. I know there's a lot of football in him that's high-level football," end quote. So it sounds like Coach Sark's a little baffled as well. It sounds like maybe he doesn't know what's going on in there. But whatever it is, he needs to figure it out pretty quick, because defensively, the Longhorns played pretty well. They held the Miners to just 259 total yards. while the Texas defense has allowed just 4 touchdowns all season. And when you've got a defense that's elite, you need your offense to play just as well, to especially a program like Texas, to give that team, if you want to be in the college football playoff again, Arch is going to have to play much, much, much better. The offense as a whole is going to have to play much, much better. So the interesting aspect of this game, though, guys, was UTEP quarterback Malachi Nelson. For those of you that follow Texas football, that follow high school football, you'll remember Malachi Nelson's name in the same recruiting class as Arch, and was actually rated higher than Arch coming out of high school by some of the recruitment websites, by some of the analysts. But he has taken a much different path to where he is. He started his career at USC. He then transferred to Boise State, and now he's at UTEP. I still think he's got some really, really raw talent. I don't know that he'll ever get that talent tapped into at UTEP. Certainly, he was fighting for playing time at USC. He wasn't going to start. Boise State, he wasn't going to start. The reason he's at UTEP is because he was promised the starting job. He's got it. They're 1-2. I thought maybe he played well enough to beat the Longhorns on Saturday, but certainly his defense did not live up to expectations for the Miners. So, yeah, another questionable game for Arch. I don't know what to tell you. The Longhorns now will have Sam Houston State, just another opponent that they should probably beat by 60. If the Longhorns win this one, 30-10, 33-30, something like that, that's just not a massive blowout, people are going to go nuts in Austin. Paul Feinbaum's going to go crazy. Not that anybody cares what Paul Feinbaum thinks. But coming up after that, they're on the road at Florida to start their SEC schedule. Then, of course, Texas OU on October 11th. And you've got Kentucky, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, Georgia, Arkansas, and then the Aggies to close out the season November 28th after Thanksgiving. This schedule does not get easier after this week. And they got to figure something out there in Longhorns country. Moving on, boys and girls, let's head over to the Hilltop. As SMU rebounded from a 2-overtime loss to Baylor, what a heartbreaker that was, to beat Missouri State 28-10 in Missouri State's first game as an FBS level program. Kevin Jennings shined again, 281 yards, a touchdown. TJ Harden ran for 96 yards and 2 more scores. As I was real interested to see how this team was going to respond after the loss to Baylor, a game they should have, I don't know that they should have manhandled Baylor. And I don't want to diss on Baylor because I like Baylor. Baylor is not at the level that SMU is, or at least they're not supposed to be, where SMU is right now with talent. So this one kind of surprised me. I think that one, I think the Bears, and we talked about it a little bit last week, obviously, on that show. I think the Bears kind of snuck up on the Mustangs. So I was real anxious to see how they were going to rebound, especially on the road, in a game that was hyped big time locally because, again, their first home game as an FBS program for the Missouri State Bears. And we know the last time out, the Mustangs certainly did not handle Bears very well. This time it did end up a little bit better, 28-10. Again, Kevin Jennings, I thought, played masterfully. I thought the game plan was great. However, you had a 14-10 halftime lead. It's kind of like the Longhorns game, right? It was like, this game's way closer at the half than it should be. Let's see what happens there at Robert W. Plaster Stadium in Springfield the rest of the way. And the Mustangs, while putting up just 2 more touchdowns the rest of the way, held Missouri State scoreless in the second half, 28-10 your final. I think everybody thought this one was going to be a blowout, but it just goes to show you guys that football's hard and everybody's out there playing. And yes, there are going to be your blowouts for sure. But I think more times than not, you get games like this. They're certainly more fun to watch. I mean, even if you're on the side that's supposed to be blowing out the other opponent, I think anyway, it's more fun to watch. Maybe not for you, but it looked like in the first half, SMU was kind of still stuck on the game from before the previous week, those Bears. But, of course, in a game that knocked the SMU Mustangs out of the top 25, I don't know that your win against Missouri earns you a spot back in the top 25. But I think all in all, I was impressed with what I saw in the second half, and that is the team that you're going to need heading into the game against TCU in Fort Worth, your crosstown rivals, another old Southwest Conference rival. If you listened to this program a couple weeks ago, I'm an old Southwest Conference guy, and I absolutely love these matchups between the old Southwest Conference schools. Missouri State heads to FCS UT Martin, while SMU will play the second game on its Big 12 schedule again at TCU in Fort Worth. And things don't get a whole lot easier either for the Mustangs, as after TCU, you're at home against Syracuse and Stanford. Then you head up and then Wake Forest on the road. Then you head to Miami back home. I'll probably be in attendance of that game if you guys would like to have a brewski. At BC, and then home against Louisville, and then on the road to wrap up the season against Cal. So some stiff competition here coming up. You need to do what you can do to take care of TCU, Syracuse, and Stanford for sure before that Clemson game. Try to get a little bit of momentum headed into that. Speaking of momentum, does anybody in the state, maybe in the country, have more momentum than Behren Morton and those Texas Tech Red Raiders? Once again, just rolling offensively. Another weather delay. Wasn't the 65 minutes that we had in the first game there in Lubbock, but 45-14 over Oregon State. It's the last in the 3-game series at home to open, or the 3-game homestand to open the season. They're going to hit the road now, and they'll be at Utah, number 16 Utah, on Saturday. That's an early kick, 11 a.m. on Fox, by the way, as I believe Fox Big Noon Kickoff is broadcasting live from Utah with Texas Tech there. So you'll get to see all those boys on TV representing Utah and the Red Raiders. But you are now you didn't hit the 60s offensively like you did the first 2 games. You did hold your opponent to 14. So you have held over 3 games. Your defense has allowed just 35 points, which is impressive for the Red Raiders, as that is not what we are used to seeing. I talked about it a little bit after the win over Kent State. 67 points against Arkansas Pine Bluff, 62 against Kent State, and then Oregon State, you scored 45. And I just think this offense is rolling. And I don't know, looking at the schedule, we'll look ahead at their schedule here coming up in a little bit, but Behren Morton, again, 4 TD passes, just looked on. Dealing with some nagging injuries. I thought he played pretty well. 442 yards. Jacoby Williams had a scoring catch and run as the Red Raiders just rolled over the Beavers. Again, with another weather delay. You're going to wonder if there's going to start being talk of a dome in Lubbock. Please no. Just please don't do that to us. Please, that would be horrible. Yeah, a 2.5-hour delay, just 2.5 minutes into the game. And it's almost like you'd rather see them just not start the game. I heard them talking about this on the broadcast. Would you rather them just not start the game if you can foresee that? But we know the weather happens quickly out there. That's not always possible. You can't see that. So once they got back on the field, it was a 2:30 local time kickoff. They didn't hit the field again until almost 6 local time. So congratulations to those who were sitting on your stale tortillas in the stands that sat through that. Good job by you. Cameron Dickey had a short TD run to help the Red Raiders improve to 3-0 for the first time in Coach Joey McGuire's 4 seasons at the helm. Man, it's hard to believe he's been there 4 years already. But, yeah, doing all the right things defensively. Coy Eakin's playing really, really well. Caleb Douglas is playing really, really well. I'm liking what I'm seeing. Again, the schedule for the Red Raiders doesn't get easier. Number 16, Utah, will be their first real test on the road. Then you've got Houston. We just talked about how Connor Wigman's playing out there. And then you go to host Kansas. Then you head to Arizona State, home against Oklahoma State, on the road at Kansas State, and then home against BYU, UCF, and then you hit the road for West Virginia, who's also playing very well right now. So think good thoughts for Texas Tech, because it's about to get a lot tougher for them. But the way that offense and defense is playing, I'm excited to see what they can come up with. Let's head to Fort Worth now. And I apologize for the sniffles. I hope you guys can bear with me through that. Got kind of a late summer cold that's trying to grab my attention here. Josh Hoover, another big game, 4 touchdowns. TCU follows their win over Bill Belichick and North Carolina by crushing Abilene Christian 41-21. Hoover had 337 yards, 4 touchdowns. I don't know if you want to look. It was 28-0 at the half. I was wondering if ACU was going to get on the scoreboard at all, and then ACU actually outscored the Horned Frogs in the second half, putting up 21 points to the Red Raiders 14. But it's not the second half score that counts. It's the overall score. 42-21 as the Frogs double up the Wildcats. Josh Hoover, again, continuing his strong play. He's going to be the key to that offense the rest of the way. Sonny Dykes, I thought, has put together some strong game plans for these, at least the 2 games they've been in. I know the North Carolina game was the one that got all the hubbub. Look, ACU's not a throwaway on the schedule, okay? They scared the crap out of Texas Tech first game of the season a couple years ago. They've got some strong players and a strong coaching staff. So they're nothing to sneeze at. And TCU, I thought, handled it pretty well. A lot of the credit going to Josh Hoover and the offensive line there. Coming up on TCU schedule, again, you're going to get more difficult as we get in. Of course, they face SMU, as we just discussed, and they've got Arizona State. They host Colorado, then head to Kansas State, host Baylor, head to West Virginia, host Iowa State and Rocco Becht. And then they are on the road at BYU, at Houston, and then wrap up the regular season schedule at home against Cincinnati. So that's going to get a little more difficult, obviously, for the Frogs. Now, before we get into your Aggies, we got to give some proper credit here, especially locally to where I live anyway. I don't know where you guys are listening from. I am in the Frisco area broadcasting here as our FanStream Sports studio is in Dallas. But right up the road from me, a school that I have grown up here in the area watching play. Nope, not the Mustangs. Nope, not the Frogs. Not the Bears in Waco. Not even the Sooners up north a little bit. The North Texas Mean Green over here in Denton, just right down the road. What a show these boys are putting on. You win your first game over Lamar, 51-0. You go on the road, Western Michigan. You squeak that one out 33-30. And then you come back home against Washington State. Man, I don't know what has happened to the Washington State program. I'm not taking any credit away from the Mean Green, obviously. But I don't know what's happened to Washington State as the Mean Green roll 59-10 on Saturday in just an embarrassment for the Cougars. How far that program has fallen, it's incredible. They're in the Pac-12. They're 2-1. But how do you go on the road against a team that you're supposed to be so much better than in the Mean Green, who's 3-0, by the way, 3-0, third place in the American. Drew Mestamaker, 211 yards, 4 touchdowns. The score was 42-3 at the half before the Cougars scored in the fourth. And North Texas put up another 17 in the second half. 59-10, again, your final. But the Mean Green were scoring at will, pretty much. If they had the ball, they were going to score. And if you're the Mean Green, if you're a fan of North Texas, then things are going well for you. Now, look, again, just like every team we've discussed, things are going to get much tougher for you, Mean Green, the rest of the way. You play Army next week or this week. You've got USF coming up. You got South Alabama after Army. Then you've got USF. Those Bulls are having a great, great season. I know they just lost this week, but strong, strong team. UTSA, we've already seen what they can do. Charlotte, Navy, UAB, Rice, Temple to close the season out at home. But yeah, good things for North Texas. I had to give them a shout out on the show. We don't ignore them, but we have bigger schools to talk about and bigger fan bases to try to get to. But had to give some Mean Green some love. All right, boys and girls, let's get into the game of the week. Not just by my standards, but by just about everybody's standards. As the Texas A&M Aggies rolled in to South Bend, and I'm not going to lie, as an Aggie, this one had me a little bit concerned. I've watched Notre Dame football, obviously, this season in their previous game against Miami that they lost, but I thought that team could beat the Aggies, especially at home. And I fully expected that to happen. But I've seen something now this season out of Mike Elko's Aggies. This is not Jimbo Fisher's Aggies. And I'm not talking about just the players. And even before Jimbo, this is not the old Aggies that would seemingly go in and get overpowered, even though you think they're better, either play down to the level of that opponent or play up to the level of their opponent and then give it away at the end as they did versus Alabama so many times. I know they beat Alabama recently, but you had some other games where you were right there. Haynes King, just throw an accurate pass in the corner of the end zone and you beat Alabama again, but it wasn't to be. But this is not those Aggies. And I don't know what it is. If it's, Mike Elko, when he first took over in College Station a couple of years ago, he said that he wanted to change the culture. Well, I think he's done it. And even players that were on the roster at that time said, this is a culture change. They said that he is shifting focus. He is changing the culture, and he has done that. And this game was the perfect example of that. Against UTSA, it's UTSA. You win 42-24. You're supposed to win that one. Against Utah State, you win 44-22. You're supposed to win that one. Then you play a top 10 Notre Dame team in their stadium. We know it's hostile territory. It always has been for the Aggies. And not only do you hang with Notre Dame, just about on every play. And look, that first blocked punt for a touchdown, with teams in the past, I would have said, well, there you go. That's going to be the story of the game right there. They never got off out of the gates. And at one point I would have thought, man, this could be a blowout now. That's going to suck the life out of this team. The offense couldn't do anything. They're already down before the defense even gets on the field. But not this team. This team is different. And again, maybe it's the Mike Elko effect. Maybe it's the culture that he has instilled in College Station. Maybe it's Marcel Reed, who sometimes plays like he doesn't know that he's not supposed to do certain things. And he sometimes just makes it work. But, man, I will tell you that fourth down touchdown with 13 seconds left before the Randy Bond kick that gave them the win, that's the same type of play, the same situation that we have seen the Aggies in years before against a good team. It was the same situation against Alabama, the one I referenced when Haynes King threw the worst pass of his career. And it wasn't even close in the front right corner of the end zone at Alabama. But, it was the perfect play call. You had the perfect matchup. It wasn't his primary read for Reed. Was there a little holding by the Aggies offensive line? Sure, there's holding on every play. Do you always call them? No. Did it affect this play? No, because Reed was kind of rolling to his left anyway. That guy wasn't going to get Reed anyway. That's probably why they didn't call it or they didn't see it, whatever the reason. But, man, how impressive was that? And how good, if you're an Aggies fan, how good does that make you feel? Not just that you got the win, but how you got the win and that you were able to pull that out in the final minutes. Your defense held. And, of course, we had a couple of streaks broken here. It was the Aggies had lost 13 straight road games to ranked opponents going back to 2014. It was the first time to beat a top 25 team on the road. Sorry, that was 2014. You haven't beat a top 25 team on the road since you beat number 3 Auburn in 2014. You lost 13 straight road games to ranked opponents before this. And then I saw this was the first win for the Aggies over a top 10 non-conference team since 1979. I believe that was a Penn State win. So a lot of history made here. Nobody cares about that. It's fun to talk about. But all in all, this win, it's put the Aggies on the map. I mean, the Aggies are always kind of on the map, but kind of like not in the best place. They're still talking about this win on some of the college football programs, and they should be. It's a big win for the program. It's a big win for the SEC. It's a big loss for Notre Dame, by the way, 0-2 to start the year. How about that? But Reed's just getting better. 17 of 37 for a career-high 360 yards, 2 touchdowns. Carver caught 7 passes for a career-high 207 yards. That's the first 207-yard receiving game by an Aggie since Mike Evans in 2014 or 2013, one of those years. So, yeah, there you go. The big news out of the game, Bryce Anderson's injury as he was carted off the field, taken to the hospital after sustaining an injury with just 58 seconds left in the first half. It did not look pretty. He was carted off. He gave the thumbs up as he was leaving, which was very encouraging, very promising. Credit to the Irish faithful that were on hand to give him a standing ovation as he left the field. I've been to some road stadiums where they didn't exactly do that. So credit to the Irish fans out there. And then we did hear he was at the hospital the next day. He had full feeling in all of his extremities, which was also obviously encouraging and good news out of the Bryce Anderson camp after that injury. I don't know. I haven't heard anything since then, but we will continue to update that for you here on the College Football Gridiron Coast to Coast Network, as well as FanStream Sports. So, look, a lot of happy scores around Texas, around college football, around the Big 12 and the SEC, and we can't wait to get back to it. So, That'll wrap it up for us today. I do appreciate you guys hanging with us here for 40 minutes or however long we were here. We do this every week. May start doing it twice weekly. May have a recap program for you and then a preview program for you. Trying to see if we can finagle that for you to give you twice the Pigskin and Burnt Ends. Because honestly, I don't have time to talk about the burnt ends barely on these shows. We still need to get into some food, some beverage, some Texas barbecue. I would love to hear what y'all's thoughts on your favorite Texas barbecue, where that is, and why it's your favorite. We'll also get into some adult beverages that we can pair with said barbecue, things like that, and get into some fun stuff here on the college football Pigskin and Burnt Ends. I am IndyCar Tim, and until next time, boys and girls, we'll see you.